Oren, thank you very much. It is 8:36. Now, we touched on this earlier when the Justice Minister, Naomi Long, was with us on the programme. An academic paper being presented to Stormont today will argue that the legal age for criminal responsibility in Northern Ireland should be raised from 10 to 16. It's one of a number of issues being discussed as part of a review of the progress made under the Youth Justice Review of 2011. So the research has been commissioned by the Children's Law Centre, Include Youth, the Voice of Young People in Care and NIACRO. So Dr. Paula Rodgers is a policy coordinator with Include Youth and she's with us. Good morning to you, Dr. Rodgers. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Good morning.
Can you give us an idea, first of all, of what the legal age for criminal responsibility is in other countries?
Yeah, it's well, certainly as you've just said yourself, it's 10 in Northern Ireland, and we are embarrassingly low when we look at the world stage and we look at what some of the ages are across countries, particularly in Europe. More likely to be around 14, 15. I'm just looking at the table here in front of me as part of our report, which looks at the age of criminal responsibility across Europe, and the 10 is extremely low when we look at some of the other countries, and we look at the like of Austria at 14, Italy at 14, France 13, Czech Republic 15. You know, we really are we are standing out in this table as being ridiculously low age of criminal responsibility. And at 10, the United Nations Committee on the Rights of the Child have already told us repeatedly over the years that this is in contravention of children's rights standards, that it is unacceptable to criminalise children from this very, very young age. We're talking about P6, P7-year-old children here.
What difference will raising it make? What did you all find in the course of your work for this paper?
Well, as you said, the organisations that were involved in commissioning this piece of research, we have years between us. We have absolutely lots of years of experience of working with children who are more likely to come into contact with the youth justice system. And we can see the damage that does to children and young people. And we know that if you spend more time addressing reasons why these young people come into contact with the police, why they display these challenging behaviours, and actually address the root causes, that's actually, it's better for the young people and it's better for communities as well. So we're asking for a more upstream view of how we deal with children and young people. We're saying that we need more, community preventative measures. We need more early intervention. It should never get to the stage where these very, very young children, and very often vulnerable young children, and if we look at the profile of the children that come into the system, more often they're likely to experience, problems around family breakdown, around addiction issues, around violence in the home, extremely risky situations that these children already live in, and then to bring them in, it simply exacerbates the problem for children.
You mightn't have the figures to hand, Dr. Rodgers, but I wonder how many 10 or 11-year-olds are going into the system in Northern Ireland every year. I wonder just sort of what even kind of percentage. I wonder, are there many?
Yeah, the numbers are low. So if we look at, I'm just looking at the number of 10 to 13-year-olds who were actually detained in custodial detention. We're only looking at 6 children. 14-year-olds, we're looking at 12 children. This is 2019, 2020 figures. Okay. And again, when we're looking at just referral to Youth Justice Agency, again, the numbers of 10 to 13-year-olds are sitting at about 156 children. They're not enormous numbers, but for us, one child got into custody and deprived of liberty is one child too many.
Yeah, well, it can just set the course for that child's entire life, really, then, can't it?
Exactly, and it sets up incredible barriers for that young person going forward into their life. And we know that many of the very young children that come into contact, it is around extremely low-level offending, and it isn't for serious crimes. And we know, again, from the research that if they come into even the fringes, if they come into the cusp of the justice system, they're more likely to get sucked in, and it's harder to bring young people out of it. So really, what we want is to ensure that young people don't even come into contact with the youth justice system, and that we address some of those social welfare, health, education issues at a much earlier stage.
We had the Justice Minister, Naomi Long, with us on the programme earlier, and we asked her about this. She said that to her 14 would seem to be the right age, and that she had tried in the past for the executive to bring it to 12 because she feels that would be a good starting point, but there was no cross-party support there. And she said that she can't take decisions on this unilaterally. How can that be, and how would you like to see the executive take this forward now?
Yeah, well, obviously we really we are delighted that our current Minister for Justice does support an increase in the age of criminal responsibility, and we know she's been very public. And previous ministers actually have also supported an increase in the age of criminal responsibility. We need cross-party support for this to happen, but to be honest, the organisations that work with children are simply saying, let's have a debate about this. Let's have an open, honest discussion. Let's look at the evidence to suggest why we think it's okay to criminalise at 10 years of age. So we're basically saying at this stage, let's get this out in the open. We want to involve communities as well. This is about bringing everybody in this conversation. So we really want to challenge potentially the opposition or the so-called opposition that might be out there saying, I don't know that communities want this. They don't want to see, an increase in the age of criminal responsibility. Well, we would say that hasn't been tested. Let's have the debate. Let's get the discussion out in the open. Let's talk about the different ages. As you said, the Minister has said 14. We're coming out at 16 because we believe that's the children's rights approach to go to 16. But we at least want to have that discussion, and we understand that people will come down at different ages and what they think it should be. But let's at least have that conversation. I think children deserve that. I think they deserve to have these issues looked at.
Thank you very much for your time this morning. Appreciate it. Dr. Paula Rodgers speaking there, a policy coordinator with Include Youth. So that academic paper will be presented to Stormont today. If you didn't hear our interview, or Richard's interview with Naomi Long, you can listen back to it on BBC Sound. Richard did ask her about this. She gives a statement as well, and she says she welcomes the tracing, the review report, which recognises that a lot has been achieved to improve the youth justice system in Northern Ireland over the last 10 years. It also helpfully shines a light on some key issues that still need to be addressed. Foremost among these is the minimum age of criminal responsibility. The Justice Minister says, I've been very clear on my desire to increase the minimum age and bring Northern Ireland more closely into line with international standards. However, raising the minimum age is not a decision that I alone can take, and I will continue to raise this issue with my executive colleagues.